think so. Yeah, I think so. This is simply a overview of the budget that council in some form.
Or we can technically call it a workshop. If you have some questions, then we can make adjustments and changes and that what you would like to do. I think the finance committee kind of had this presentation already one time. There are some holes still that we need to discuss tonight, and I've got a list of a few of them that need to be gone over. But if we look at our calendar, if we were to advertise next week on the 8th, Wednesday, okay, we have to have a week between what we're doing so we can run the paper.
10
We got to have
days.
a week between advertisement and the public hearing, so we're proposing a public hearing on the 16th, which I think is a Thursday night.
It's at least 7 days, and we got written up one. That's
Earn that,
right. That's
so-
right.
And we're recommending to you to meet on the 16th for the public hearing, and then the 20th, and then you got to have 7 days from the public hearing for adoption. But if you remember, the 20th, which would be your typical meeting date, is Juneteenth, and that's a holiday. And so the 27th is the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Which is
for
late.
adoption.
That's normally late in the month is when council adopts a budget anyway, and so we're looking at public hearing June.
It's tentative. If something needs to change, you need to have continued, another call, whatever it needs to be, then it's all good.
But you're shooting for whatever we decide. Council decides tonight to have a hearing advertised for June 16th and a budget adoption meeting on June 27th, the regular council meeting.
Public hearing for the 16th.
Okay.
And the regular meeting on the 27th for adoption, and for it to run in the paper, and the publication date
Gotcha.
is a Wednesday, so it's a week from today. So it'd be the
All
8th.
right. Well, let's go through the staff is proposing or the committee. Yes, Mr. Tom Taylor. We're just.
Hey, Bill. Yeah, y'all go ahead.
We have before you, ladies and gentlemen, a proposed. I'll let you present it, Mr. Vanovic or Mr. Nash. It's balanced, or is it not balanced?
This is balanced.
Okay.
What's presented tonight at 19,764,835 is balanced. However, I caution you that the committee and the Police Employment Committee had some additions and changes that they wanted to do that we may need to discuss.
All right. Let's wind through this narrative if we can.
Okay. If you go to this particular page, if you look up at the screen, the budget highlights is the top. Again, 19,764,835 is the budget. It is balanced, revenue and expenditures meet, and Jennifer has adeptly balanced all the funds as well. Okay. Revenues, we have, as you know, a big fire truck purchase coming, and the purchase of the fire truck is in the budget, including the revenue that would come from the grant loan combination. Right now we have about $960,000 of grant money, which includes the Spanberger, plus some USDA money, which would equal 55% of the total purchase of $1,744,000 and perhaps some change for that fire truck. So you have $520,000 loan plus the $200,000 from the county that we're expecting that we would carry over from this fiscal year to the next. And I think the county voted to make that payment this fiscal year, if I'm not mistaken, at the last Board of Supervisors meeting. And so you got a ladder truck. We do anticipate buying at least one police car, and we have the cost of the purchase of one police car. Don't have the payments in there, but that one police car is grant loan combination again. Okay. Through USDA. Use of general fund balance. $70,000 for fire truck savings. That's an addition. This is this fiscal year's apparatus money that we've already received. We would carry it over, and that would be applied also to the purchase of the fire truck. $40,000 accounting system software. As you know, the ladies are looking at different software options. I think that this may take a little longer time-wise because we want to make sure we're ready for it. And I think we've got some additional accounting to do so that we'll be ready. But that $40,000 is already on hand, and we're proposing to use that for the beginning of the accounting system switch. $753,000 is a portion of the money that we've saved, which is our match for the South Main project that is scheduled to begin. You can see they've already started moving equipment out there, and that's. Yep. I don't anticipate seeing an invoice until after the first of the fiscal year.
Do we anticipate a start date? I saw folks out there seeing stakes, and when will they begin?
They wanted to begin early, and I said, can't do it. And we have issued a, in writing, that the fiber optic line, because they said June 6th was going to be their day. So we met with the fiber optic folks, and they need 3 weeks to move their stuff. So there may be pipes stockpiled, there may be preliminary stuff, there may be gravel put down and equipment, but actual digging, they gotta get that fiber optic line out of there. And if you go in front of the church parking lot, you'll see orange flags, that's a fiber optic line owned by Mid-Atlantic
I wonder what
Broadband.
those lines, those flags
It's
are
gotta
for
get
today, yeah.
moved, and they told us, I met with Randy Jones yesterday at 10:30 out there on the site with the guys, and they said about 3 weeks, and they memorialized it in writing.
That'll give us
So
time to get everybody ready for it, because
Yep.
no matter how,
Having that big excavator on the side of the road right now.
that's,
I called
yeah,
Jerome.
that's a pretty good reminder.
I saw that joker and called Jerome immediately. I was like, heads up there.
But didn't he say we're gonna start digging he says we're gonna start digging at the church, within the next week?
Yeah, you were with me when we went out there, and it's a fiber optic line that has to be relocated. So
That's not gonna affect travel, motorist travel.
should not. I mean, it's going to be congested there, I don't think, but it's not going to be a detour down Lunenburg. That's just not the case.
All right,
Town manager will review House Bill 1239, personal property tax impact, and the General Assembly has adopted, and it does not say mandate, but it does say that localities are authorized to provide basically an equalization of personal property taxes, because the value of new and used cars has dramatically increased. In some locations, that think that you could see as much as a 30% increase. And I've heard a 30% increase in the actual payment or the actual cost to folks. This budget does not show that we are going to reap a windfall. The expectation is that we will equalize our rates so that the collection would be the same as it was last year. Now, I can't say everybody's bill is going to be exactly the same, but the average is going to be.
it's like it's almost like when they do reassessment, property values increase and they reduce the real estate rate.
Now, I don't think I have the methodology finalized. I think the county still's got some
They
work
are,
to do.
that's right.
And I think Christie's working on that. Jennifer Hardy had a good point. You know, these taxes aren't due until December. So even if we advertise that 85-cent tax rate, the equalization will take place. Yeah.
And we can always lower a rate after advertisement, just can't raise it. So for example, I know that, I think in here somewhere, they're gonna be, what are employee raises gonna be, 5%?
That's what's proposed. Yeah.
That's proposed, and of course, if council decided otherwise, you can lower, not trying to cause panic.
So, personal property impact, it is our expectation, the budget reflects an equalization to keep the collections approximately what they were this year.
Very good.
Anticipated FEMA ice storm reimbursement, they still owe to the town through FEMA and the state, $284,540 from the ice storm.
So we've gotten paid about what, 200
About $500,000. It was
already? It was $800,000. That's right. That's right. Wow.
And so that money's been put back in the pots. 250 went back into our reserve fund that we had borrowed, and we fleshed out some of the other cash positions that we had to put back. But there's a $284,540 payment we expect in this coming fiscal year, but the expenditure was made in February of 21.
Correct.
February 21.
February, Valentine's Day.
Although we don't have the full construction cost for the armory, and I have an expectation that would be an appropriation during the course of the year once we get more budget numbers from our architect. Jennifer did put $100,000 in expenditures and showing a revenue from the ARPA fund, which is paying for the armory, that we would use that $100,000. So there is money to get architectural and engineering work done and that sort of thing and get started. Anticipate having an appropriation for the full amount once you guys approve a bid, if not earlier. The pilot payment from the electric department, $265,815, and pilot is payment in lieu of tax. If our electric system was owned by Dominion, we had an expectation they would pay us taxes on that. I think the $265 exceeds Jennifer's most recent evaluation, which was about in the $90,000 range. But this is far less than 11 years ago. It was $750,000.
It was basically the years past. It was take all the electrical revenue and throw it over here to try to balance the budget.
And Jennifer looked back on the actual payments over the past few years, and I think the finance committee had asked, and they were in the 200+ range, so it's not dramatically different from previous years.
Not bad.
There's an $18,000 police department grant included. We have an expectation of a new police department officer position, salary, the reimbursable is $41,660 out of a position that would pay $58,485. There's some additional costs like uniforms and outfitting a police officer that would be on top, but we didn't want to put that in there until such time as we knew we would be approved. And the COPS grant, if not already submitted, will be submitted
Deadline's June 16th?
June 16th.
Right now, we have chief plus how many officers? Chief plus 11?
Yeah.
So this will make it chief plus 12. Very good.
We full staff, all right.
And so this COPS grant is 3 years. We have a match for 3 years, but after 3 years, then we have an obligation to retain that position at least for 1 year.
Yes, after the third year, we have to retain for.
It's just like a school resource officer. You get the grant on the front end, and then over time, you've got to pick it up, but it's needed.
We may or may not get the grant. I don't know. Chief did tell me it's pretty competitive, and Chris Mathias did confirm that there's not a lot of these that are going to be likely awarded based on the demand that there'll be. Electric revenues, Fema's projections. Usually we get them in June. We don't have an expectation we're going to get final projections in June. So we're, for things like fuel adjustment, I think we're using the January projections that we've been given. And for the actual cost of power and revenues as well, we're still using what last year's numbers were. We don't have a June number coming this year. Dan has been to the Fema meetings. When do you expect maybe something more firm? Okay. And the directions that Fema gave everybody was use the January of the previous. And that's what we've done.
Are we hearing anything about a wholesale rate increase? No, we don't
There
have-
is not one proposed here.
Wow,
You
so
already see a huge decrease in your,
consumer utility, the
That true-up
fuel
comes
adjustment.
off.
That's good, because some months, like January was a big shocker. Where I think my fuel adjustment in my house was like $70. That was a little.
so they use my bill, average right now is $75.89 for the total power cost adjustment portion of it. It's gonna go down to $42.
Mine was
Okay.
mine was 95, but who cares?
But I will tell you this, all that sounds good, but if oil goes to $1.75 or $175 a barrel,
Yep.
you may see a massive fuel adjustment increase. So
So we just need more. We're going to get more information, but it looks like some encouraging news for Blackstone folks right now. Blackstone customers, their bills may see a reduction.
I think Jennifer says it should feel like a 7.81% reduction.
That would feel really good for a lot of folks. 7.8% would feel really good.
But with the economy being what it is and the cost of fuel and those kinds of things, there's some question marks still. $200,000 revenue from new Fort Pickett billing rate. If you remember, we negotiated a deal with Fort Pickett folks. It's supposed to bring us $200,000 annually. In exchange, we waived their tap fees. We changed their billing structure. That billing structure change should net us in the sewer, not the water, but on the sewer bill, portion of the bill, approximately $200,000 additional dollars annually.
We're going to put that back in the system in the water.
And it's got to go back, and Jennifer's got that expensed in that.
But when you say, just to be clear, we've decided that it's going to be reinvested in Pickett repairs, but Lord willing, if we have some sort of disaster in town, we still have the legal latitude to use some of this Pickett revenue for town water.
There is benefit to the town to fix a lot of this old stuff out of Pickett.
Right.
Primarily, the flow that Pickett had been paying for at a lower rate, admittedly, that flow will hopefully decrease to Ed and the guys down there at the plant. You wouldn't get 5 million gallons, you may get 3 million gallons.
Right, that's good.
Pardon?
Change the name, they changed the name,
Gotcha.
Not yet, but it's coming.
but it's coming.
Or Barfoot. Now, I will tell you, in addition, the town received 400,000 gallons of additional treatment capacity at the wastewater plant, and they also threw in 400,000 gallons of water capacity, which we weren't necessarily expecting. So I was pleasantly pleased this month. We received $14,000 additional above what we would have received based on the new rates. The first month was really good. It was like $40,000+, but I think it was Afghan influenced. And then we've had some months in the 20s and then in the $7,000 range. This past one that I noticed was about $14,000. So that's in keeping with the 200,000. So hopefully we're going to make that. But we can and intend to, if we fall short on that 200, our intention would be to renegotiate. They need to add another 75 cents on the per 1,000 gallon cost.
Very good, very good. And of course, these new projects, of course, are under, construction. We don't know exactly, but obviously the Inn in Blackstone and Blackstone Academy Lofts and Patriot Square.
I have not budgeted
Any growth?
any new expectations.
That's smart. I like that.
No additional expectation, but I think there will be some, especially in garbage collection and all
Electrical.
those kinds of things.
Electrical.
And lodging hopefully will really exceed expectations, but we have not built the budget on 10, 15, 20% increase in utility costs. or
I
tax.
applaud that. I applaud that.
I think you're gonna see a lot of the lodging, you're not gonna see a huge amount of increase in the taxes because from firsthand, I know that they are going to still house the ones that are short-term further away.
Are they?
The 30 days and plus, they're gonna stay close.
So with the lodging,
You're not
we,
gonna get much
we
lodging.
were always told 3 years ago, I remember we had a meeting, they said 90% of the folks will pay meals tax, but 90% of the folks will not pay lodging tax.
Because if they individually book the room, lodging tax applies.
They don't individually.
And if it does not, or if it's done through a booking agency from the federal government, it's
Right.
exempted. But I talked to Raj, and he said he's already got a lot of these folks, and he charges lodging tax on everybody, and it hasn't been a problem. So he would intend on doing it the same way. I'm going to ask that you skip down. Jennifer's going to go over some salaries and step increases, all that kind of stuff in a few minutes. But if you could go to page 4 very quickly. And I think if we're looking down through this, it says GA allocation. So for you new guys who may not know, GA allocation is the amount of money from our water and sewer and electric department that we transfer back into the general fund to do things like pay the ladies that work at the front counter a portion of their salary, Allison, a portion of her salary, the treasurer, Jennifer, myself, other employees. And that general G&A allocation, I think, I don't have the number exactly, but I think it's about $533,000. And I think Jennifer may have done a little modification, but it is an increase of almost 5% to balance the previous year's salary increases and new hires. And those are 580, excuse me. There you go. We have a full-time DBI position. Currently, it's a part-time position, and we pay, I don't know, $3,300 or thereabout dollars per month, and then they pay their employee and pay their bills out
Per
of that
month or
amount.
per quarter?
Per month.
Per month, so
DBI/tourism director slash.
Yeah.
Okay.
DBI tourism, DBI Director of Tourism.
Yes. This is a three-headed
Be
position.
responsible for making sure the
Economic
museums
developer.
are staffed, all that sort of stuff.
Tourism director. That's why we at the committee said it needs to be a
I think the
$50,000.
job description that I saw was just tourism director.
Yeah.
Y'all kind of need to settle on what title you want.
Yeah,
not the
and that's
job
going,
description.
yeah.
So, Mr. Nash, what you're saying, just your opinion, is that you see a DBI position, Tourism Director, Economic Developer, which should be $50,000 a year,
That's what we
not
at the committee
40.
have said to start at 50. So we need to find 10 grand somewhere in the budget.
I got you.
Plus benefits.
Yeah.
Now, would
That's on the page 6.
the current DBI Director be invited to apply?
I would
Anybody.
It would be an open search, correct?
Open
Absolutely.
application.
Okay,
Anybody that's in town staff now could apply.
very good. I like that a lot.
So it's in-house.
But no, it's,
I mean, in-house
Not
can apply.
mandatory, but
Okay, yeah.
in-house can apply.
yeah, it's an open search, but certainly those that
Okay.
current employees can certainly apply.
Lafayette can come back.
You could apply.
Yep.
Health insurance increase, 11%, and I think that, if not the full council, certainly the committee has discussed this and has recommended that the town cover that insurance increase for employees. VRS employer contribution rate increase of 39%. I can't tell you exactly why, maybe Jennifer can explain. some
School
of that.
system is totally different. Their health insurance went up 2%, which they covered, and their VRS contribution was nothing hardly, I thought. Interesting.
And then versus liability insurance actually decreased. And we renewed that back, I think, last council meeting or last month. There was a vote to authorize going ahead and filling that out, and we did. Weatherization is funded with prior year use of fund balance of $50,000. And the FY '23, because we have not put any money aside yet for weatherization, so we would carry over 50, and there'd be 50 new for a total of $105,000. So we did not increase the annual weatherization expenditure. There would just be 50 from this year, and we carried over next year, because the cost of a house is exceeding. I think we have seen, and Chastity indicated to me today that the county's ready to codify an understanding with the town of what their money could be used for, but they're sitting on a significant amount of program income,
Yeah.
and it looks like they're gonna release $50,000 to the town, that we could do another
Yeah.
project.
How much are they sitting on roughly? $500,000?
No.
I think it's
When
about-
Ronnie Rourke was still there, I asked him one day, and he said it was about 128,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think she told me that it was 135 now. Yeah. Well, if we get 50 more of that, that's $151,000.
Yep.
We could do miracles.
General fund capital, again, your ladder truck, and that's the actual purchase price. Repair fire department roof. I've gotten a quote, 2 quotes, from the same contractor for a new roof, which is over 300,000, and then apparently potentially to do a spray sealant. I think Eric has also checked around, and I think that 115 is probably right. Whether we do a portion of it, and you said maybe we could just do half the roof or something to start with, and maybe we replace that half of the roof. But this budget reflects $115,000 to address the roof at the fire station. Okay. Fire department turnout gear, that's a standard every year, and I think it was increased from $20,000 to $25,000 a few years ago. Again, 1 police car. Now, one thing that I do have in here that I want you guys to think about, and I want to keep it if possible. And it is a place that you can find some additional cash, but we've got this big fire truck coming next year, and your payments are going to be over $40,000 a year. I think $44,000. I think Jennifer told me the number was actually $44,000 annually on this new truck. What we're proposing is to pay off 3 police cars that we're currently paying on, and that would be about $65,000 in the general fund. Okay. I think there's also some proposal to pay off some equipment in the water and sewer fund, which would allow more money to be transferred, but that fire truck that payment's gonna be stout. And I mean, it's ordered and it's all good, and we got a heck of a deal as far as grants and contribution from the county. But heads up, next fiscal year, you're gonna have to find some payments, $40,000 of payments, and what I'm proposing is to try to pay off some stuff in the budget now. Instead of making payments shown, we're actually paying the full principal amounts. There's a town hall camera upgrade included, which would start videotaping and audio taping specific to the treasurer's office. We get people that I paid the bill and I gave you cash, and so we'll be able to check on those kinds of things. Again, that $40,000 accounting system software, that is $40,000 that is in hand, that's been saved and would be transferred, or it would be transferred 1 fiscal year to the next. Schwartz Tavern roof, it's looking a little tough over there. And I have met with an architect, and we have $120,000 budgeted, and that is a mid-range of 2 quotes that I got to replace the roof. One was under $100,000, and one was significantly over. But the architect that I met with gave us some ideas, and I don't want to alarm anybody, but one of the options may be a less costly and more durable roof, but that thing's lasted 30 years. That thing was put on late 80s. Larry and you guys may have.
It was for the 1988 centennial.
Yeah, so those shingles have lasted pretty well. And I'm not that familiar with Williamsburg, but the architect said a lot of the buildings down there actually have a ceramic faux shake roof
Okay.
that has more durable and maybe a little cost effective. So I have received a proposal from that architect, and I'm awaiting another one, but I don't want to do anything until after the first of the year.
For $120,000, I expect them to be dressed in full revolutionary gear while they make the repairs. I mean, good Lord. That's hard money to spend right there, man. 120.
There's
Yeah.
3 other things that could be done over there. As you know, there's some water damage on the inside. I think Bobby's noted that a time or two, so that would be included. You know, there's been discussion of a blacksmith shop, if that could fit in that money. That could pay for the blacksmith shop to be done. But 120 is a mid-range of 2 price quotes I've received on that roof.
And the 120 is just for the roof.
Well, I've received one quote, $160,000, and the other one was about $80,000 on the roof. So, problem is, with it being a historic landmark, and I don't know the difference between a historic register property and a landmark
Certain
and what
things you
applies.
can't do.
I want to make sure that whatever we do, we've got somebody who knows what they're doing. Telling us that we don't just slap up sheetrock in the daggone thing and find out we're in trouble. Street sweeper savings. One of the next capital improvements that Dan's expecting is a is a street sweeper, and we're making an installment payment on that street sweeper. So,
A new street sweeper.
well, that sucker was bought in the mid-90s.
It was a 4-3 council vote. It was very controversial. I love it myself.
It does keep our streets a whole lot cleaner.
Yes, it does.
If you go to Cambridge or you go to some of the other towns that are dependent on VDOT to sweep or crew, it makes a different downtown look better.
It definitely does.
So, 1/3 of that payment, 1/3 of the purchase of a street sweeper would be about $87,000, but in order to, I saw water drip right out of that vent right there on the Eric's
Don't
desk.
worry, we'll be in the Army in about a year from now, so it's all good.
$87,000 would be the correct number, but, in what we've got in the budget, we've only got 50,000. We'll have
That's
to wait.
1/3 of the cost of street sweeper.
$87,000 is 1/3 the cost of the street
Because the
sweeper.
one we got now was about 100,000, it was in the early to mid-90s, I want to say.
And I think there's some corrosion in it and
Yeah.
rusting and
It's amazing it still works, but will the new one be able to do a better job? I know, like, and not to complain, but we've got a few intersections in town that, going back to last October, Mr. Nash complained about heavy gravel buildup.
Did we get that? I thought we,
Man, 8th and Brunswick is, I mean,
8th and Brunswick?
8th and Brunswick's pretty tough.
Okay.
I was told because it was hard to get when there's not a curve or something.
That machine has a rotating broom,
Right.
and it really works well because you can go down that curb line.
The curb line,
throws
it's
it in
perfect.
front. It works the best.
10th and Brunswick's not great in front of Lonnie's house. There's gravel down there.
Trail on Harris Fitzgerald Street.
Yeah, the intersection.
Yeah. Well, hopefully maybe that's good. It's good that we've got it in the budget.
Street, small equipment and mowers. We're proposing a new zero-turn mower for the street department simply because we probably need to keep one in the budget every year. And VDOT capital projects, as you know, 753 is what we have on hand for that South Main project that's supposed to start shortly. VDOT has a $400,000 grant into that project, and the total project $1,153,000. I do caution you that the project's going to be probably a little more than that because we are proposing to pave that project only paves from 6 to 8 and a little bit past to get to Rick's Auto, but we're proposing to pave all the way to 10th Street. And my expectation is we would use the VDOT primary money for that. Bus budget, $898. I think you guys had adopted that previously. I think it has a bus in it, and it has some bus shelters as far as capital projects in there. East End housing. Jennifer went back and looked what we spent so far in phase 2 of the East End project and what has to be paid. I think a good chunk of this has yet to be paid. I think a good chunk of that, about $465,000 of that $1,049,000 is curb gutter, drainage, pipes, such things. We just awarded 5 new houses. I think I sent you guys an email with those different locations. And that would be included in the difference between the 465 and that
Can I
$1,049,000.
ask you a question on that?
Sure.
Okay, on that east, well, you brought it up.
Mm-mm.
Don't y'all get upset, they don't do a Will Smith over here. You say that East End housing grant. What is the status? They doing a good job there, but what is the status right now?
The water and sewer guys are done.
No, don't say this slow, they are.
They're done. They're putting asphalt in today. If you went down there, they were asphalting their utility trenches. They still have some cleanup, concrete work to do. We'd like for them to be done. The expectation that they would have been done at the end of April, but they're not done.
No, that's all we, don't wake
Getting
up
there.
don't wake up Joe Biden, we got that covered, we got that covered.
It's not our expectation to start any trouble with them. We just want them to finish and move on and everybody be happy. We
Okay,
get what we want.
Let me ask you this. On Harris Fitzgerald Street, y'all, they done with the water and sewer line?
I think they're done. I think they put asphalt in those cuts.
Okay, so.
However-
Right now, you just wanna do the curb and gutter and what you telling me about the,
There's one section of, and tonight I'll present when we're done with this budget information. We received bids on a section water line that Andre had asked to be
well, I'm
done.
not real concerned about that, cause we good on Harris Fitzgerald Street.
My expectation,
I know you want some luxury, but that's all right about that.
it is my expectation, and what I've asked Randy and Sam Carroll at B&B to do, is to have the curb and gutter portion of the project ready to be bid by Labor Day. Okay? By Labor Day.
One more thing.
Mhm.
My ward leader, you know who he is. What you think about this?
Well,
The whole project right now.
I think the project is good.
Okay,
I have no problem with it.
If you happy with it, I'm cool in the game with it.
All right, okay.
It's gonna,
I don't have a problem
it'll
with
look as good as the rest of East End when we're done.
Very good.
All right?
Moving right along on the electric fund.
Electric fund to implement and adjust PCA billing code for pass-through expenses charged to consumers per kilowatt hours, and these are the different things that are included in our power cost adjustment. The true-up is coming out, as you can see. The fuel adjustment is there, and SEPA, which we buy a small portion of our electricity I guess it comes from Philpott Dam or the Bugs Island Dam. And again, it'll feel like a 7.81% decrease to the consumer's power bill. I just caution if oil goes to $1.50, $150 a barrel, then that could go out the window and you can see that fuel adjustment go up.
Yep.
And they're entitled to mid-year adjustments. Okay.
So far, so good.
Total 19,764,835.
What were we in the current year? The current year's budget was what, about 16 or something? What-
And it's significantly less. Yeah.
This is that fire truck though.
The fire truck
One
is a
point.
good portion of the increase.
All right, 16.7. And I think you said Finance Director Hardy was going to discuss salaries? or-
Yeah, let me hit a couple things
Sure.
about what is and what isn't in the budget.
Okay.
Okay, we talked about what's in the budget. What isn't in the budget, and council just voted on this last council meeting. There's a ditch of $87,000. We've got 3 options to pay for that rascal, okay? I can use funds on hand and just show a fund balance transfer from one fiscal year to the next to pay for that 87, and it's the wish of the council to do it, and we're not proposing not to do it. There need to be $87,000 in cuts somewhere, or about 4 pennies on the tax rate would pay for that. I'm not advocating the tax increase, but, you know, I've had some conversation with the Finance Committee in different directions. The project will get done, because the vote has been taken, unless council decides to change the vote. But we've got to either take from fund balance, or we've got to make $87,000 in cuts to balance this rascal.
4 cents on the real
I think it's 4 cents, yeah.
estate? And that's on real estate?
Yep.
And not to count money we don't have yet, but of course, there is the elephant in the room you mentioned earlier. You're not budgeting any of the new revenue increases from the projects that we're getting, which is smart. But there is a reasonable expectation to think we will see a boost in some utility revenue.
There is a reasonable expectation that'll be the case.
Of course, we could spend that in a few minutes if everybody got their wish list out. But that's one alternative. Just
Is to increase your revenues, correct. To show the revenues, and I don't want to advocate any kind
Yeah.
of tax increase. Now's not the time to do anything like that. So that's a lingering discussion. We talked about the personal property. We're not raising the rates, they're changing, and it's our expectation we'll equalize to where the town approximately collects the same amount that it did. We can't do half pennies, so it may have to round up a little bit, okay? And we should have that taken care of hopefully within the next month, because I'm also kind of watching what the county's gonna do, and I haven't seen an indication from the county that they're equalizing. I think the treasurer, or excuse me, the Commissioner of Revenue would like to do it, but I haven't heard anything from the Board of Supervisors.
that's correct. I think they're going to advertise the same rate.
I think they're
Personal
gonna
property.
advertise.
Big increase.
Big surge in revenue.
Again, 5% cost of living for, and plus departmental merit increases, and I think there's some handouts that'll show where those are. Jennifer can talk about all those scales and such thing, and bring you up to snuff as well or better than I can. And what is not in the budget? Again, $87,000 for that ditch is not in the budget. Running curb and gutter and sidewalk to Walmart is not in the budget. Okay? Although it's been voted on by council. Tearing down the old intermediate school is not in the budget. Okay? And new garbage cans for everybody is not in the budget. Those rollout cans is not in there. Okay?
No garbage increase. What does $1 on the monthly garbage bill result in per year? I guess it's
We do $15. Well, you got commercial, and then you've got large commercial and all that kind of stuff. So it'd be a little difficult to figure out, but
I think I had done it a few years ago when we were looking into it, and then Tom wanted to break it up into
small and
I
large.
can get you that.
I was just curious. If we can do without an increase, but you know, gosh, we do pick up a lot of stuff. You know,
we have in this budget $425,000 of garbage collections. An expectation of garbage collections.
it'd be minor. But
And landfill charges, the county is, as I understand, is not proposing to change that $3 a month for landfill charges, and that's just a pass-through for us, about $74,000, which is about what it's been running.
Question. On the garbage, how much is that? $17, $20, $17?
residential collection bill is,
15? 17.
yeah.
If you do $20, what would they help out?
Well, it's just for the sake of doing easy math, 425 divided by 17 bucks will tell you what, and then divide it would tell you what
just
the
said
pennies are, or what each dollar would be.
26,400 for 22, we got 2,200 meters, right?
So that 20.
I would say you got 2,200
That
customers.
$20, would that help or hamper the town budget?
It would hurt
Well-
some of us that live here.
It would help the budget by about, according to Jake, 26,000 a year.
What is your idea of what that money would go towards?
That's the key.
Well, I was just trying to
Does it
think,
not need to go back towards garbage-related activities? And I think that,
You keep on nicking and diming, it's not working.
I think it's fine. If you're gonna do something, I mean, I think we can leave where it is, it's fine.
I think if you have a capital project, we're gonna buy a new garbage truck, or we're gonna buy the cans, and that justifies $2.
Well, the cans are in the budget this year anyway, right?
They're not.
Okay.
Nicking and diming, go ahead.
That was something Philip, when he was here in 1997, was posing with the new garbage can the town was gonna buy everybody, but
Didn't have 'em.
it just, this is one of those things, man. Blackstone folks like it is.
Making it lazy.
I see, now, I do see on here, trying to move us along here, I see 5% increases for all employees plus some departmental merit increases.
Which-
Finance have requested we want to cover that was issue of the table for full council.
Plus, as I've always done in the past, merit across the board is not my desire, being that we have issues, as everybody does.
Some are high
I feel-
achievers.
I feel like that's something we need to go into closed session about, is go down our list of who should and who shouldn't.
You can do that. You can do that. One thing I did see, and the town manager and I discussed this privately, and it's a fairly sensitive issue, but something this council 2 years ago, if I recall, was very clear. Of course, we have several new members of the council, but there were 2 positions in the police department that the council said, hey, 2 years notice, these positions will be phased out on June 30th, 2022.
And I will tell you that the Police and Employment Committee did recommend retaining the 2 positions.
Okay.
And they recommended also including the 5% increase for those 2 positions. And we haven't been including any raises for those 2 positions over the past 2 years at least.
How do you feel about that, as town? Do you feel that's justified? Have you heard from the chief and feel it's justified?
He spoke to the committee and said, you know, they provide certain benefits, keeping the office open for,
Okay.
you know, 2 shifts a day, and 7 to
8 to midnight.
8 to midnight. So, that
So in other words,
doors open.
if someone does want to go into the police department and see a person during business hours, they're there.
Yes, Monday through Friday.
That's important. That's important. Even though they're not
I
dispatching.
got a question. Chief,
Yes, sir.
those 2 people that we're talking about, both of those work day shift?
One works 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and the second works 4 p.m. to midnight.
That's great.
Yeah, I was just wondering, you know.
Yeah, that makes me feel a lot better than-
Yeah, okay.
That's very good.
I had thrown out the idea that during the committee meeting, that I'd much rather see, not taking the money from the department, but I'd much rather see an actual licensed officer, whether it be, because I keep hearing from several different officers that if they had 3 on a shift, it'd make it so much easier. Because if one fell off because they were sick, or one had to go do a mental health
TDO.
day or whatever,
Commitment.
then it just makes it a lot easier not having to call people in. I'd much rather have an officer carrying a gun and wearing a badge, sitting at that front desk, helping push papers, if need be, or file stuff, than to have somebody that's not multi-fast. I mean, it's,
I have a question, because I don't know this answer. We currently got 2 officers on the shift now,
2.
with 12, just 2,
At least at all times. That's-
okay.
During the day, you'll have the investigator and the chief, obviously, and so there'll be more officers than that, and that usually coincides also with going to court. So if an officer has to go to court, then chief and or Sam can help out on the road.
And I remember years past, I think Lonnie would remember this, if I'm not mistaken. I think in the 90s, it was the policy at the time, and things seemed to be a little crazy then for some reason. I think we'd have on Friday and Saturday nights 4 officers on duty. Isn't that right?
Class, some was.
You had a part-time?
Yeah, part-time, you had a part-timer, yeah. So, but I mean, heck, you
4,
know,
really?
yes, sir.
No kidding.
Yes, sir.
So that, I mean, my idea just throws out 2 new officers with the one that we're hoping to get the grant for, and then plus this one. I mean, we know we're gonna have increase in calls, not that they're gonna be bad calls, but like Philip said, lock your keys in your car or whatever with the new hotels and all the new movement.
Right.
I just wanna, I would like to be able to utilize the money for a broader purpose. And if we do keep the dispatchers, I do feel like we would probably need to rescind the vote that was taken 2 years ago
On the staffing.
on the staffing.
You
Yeah,
can't
uh,
vote
you
on
did-
it. You can't. I mean, you have to rescind it.
Well, that's
Yeah.
correct, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, we have to
I
rescind
agree
it.
with you. I think procedurally you're correct. One thing I don't see on here, and I'm jumping around, but I got to think the other day, when I first got on council in '06, I don't think our fire chief's pay has been increased.
It is in here, I believe.
I'm gonna defer to Jennifer.
Yeah.
Is it just 5%?
Yeah, I didn't know what else to put in.
I really think that, and it's not because his name is Deon Tomer. I look at what the chief does. He comes before this council every month with a detailed report. I know of other localities in Southside Virginia that are having major issues with morale and agencies on the brink of closing. Some chiefs meeting with councils and maybe rumored to be removed. And I think the chief we've got is so professional. I really think his pay should be at least $5,000 a year. I know that's more than council, more than this mayor, but the level of preparation.
I only caution you, and it's fine. I mean, Dion does a great job. He's the easiest chief I've worked with. I mean, he's knowledgeable and easy to work with. Just make sure the charter doesn't dictate what that pay may be. You need to check the charter.
True. But I just think, and like I said, we've got great department heads all around. Several of y'all are here tonight. But he does come to this podium every month, or his designee, and he, with a written report, hits the highlights. And when you really think about, water, sewer, police, fire rescue, that's where it kind of starts, running the government. If you were going to start another town tomorrow, that's the things you'd be worried about. I like to somehow, I know that's, the first question will be where you're going to get the money from, but I think it's something we should think about.
It's a whole lot easier to find $2,000 than it is to find.
Yeah.
I'll bring it ditches $87,000.
Sure it
It's a
is.
big difference. $2,000
Sure it
is.
That thought just came to me the other night. We are very
Ways to
blessed.
close, so
We don't have the EMS and fire drama, or if there is, it's not, we don't hear it, I don't hear it. These it doesn't come to these chambers. Mr. Taylor, yes, real quick.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to this, sanitation thing. Now, you said it's $17. If you raise up to $20, just stop nickel and diming. We adjusted utility rates, we adjusted everything. That $20 would not, it might hurt, but it ain't gonna hurt in the long run. That would help with the raises, whatever the town manager said that the sanitation department need. We can adjust to this. We adjusted everything else, we can adjust to that.
Well, council could advertise every hearing. One thing council can do when they advertise a hearing, you always advertise high. You can always cut at the last minute, just like the 5% raises or the.
This nickel and diming.
I just don't hear where the town.
This nickel and diming is, you raise it up to $1, raise it up to another $1. Just go ahead and keep a flat rate, then we know, the citizen of Blackstone would know what they had to pay.
There's nothing in the budget though asking for this, so that's. I don't think it's even being mentioned.
Okay.
Then there may come a time, I think,
I take it back.
we hear you, Mr. Ted. One of the things the town manager said, Mr. Nash said, if we had a specific request, like we've got to buy a new garbage truck, or we drastically got to raise the increase.
You need more personnel, but that's all right. Go ahead, I apologize.
I don't
I
necessarily
was there
like,
with nobody told with this.
I don't necessarily like the idea of raising anything if we're not gonna provide more of a service for that money. And if we're gonna raise it a couple bucks for everybody, then citizen deserves their couple bucks of service, We don't, there's not a lot of competition
Right.
for,
That's
what
all right,
we're doing, so we kinda gotta police
I
ourselves.
withdraw it.
What else do you see, Mr. Van Orbeck, you want to hit?
Just a couple things, capital outlay in the electric and water and sewer departments, or water and sewer funds.
What
Okay.
page is that?
I don't think there's actually a page in the hand I was looking for, but if the closest that I could give to you would be, there's not a narrative associated, and I apologize for that. So in the electric fund, our big capital purchase would be a bucket truck this coming year. And we have $100,000 of cash that we would carry over from this current year, and then $100,000 to match that.
Page 11, okay.
There you go.
Thank you, Jennifer.
There you go. Perfect. Bucket truck purchase with use of fund balance, $200,000. Peak generation repairs, I'll be honest with you, just putting fuel in this stinking thing. That's a load of fuel nowadays, 7,500 gallons at $5 a gallon. But we're keeping some money. Those peak generators are showing a little age, and we had a issue with one this week. It's very transformer replacement with these new projects coming on, and trying to buy transformers are a concern. We've probably way overspent our budget on transformers this current year. So as you can see, I think Jennifer we had $20,000 in the current year's budget, and we're proposing an $80,000 increase in transformer purchases. Depreciation expense for the electric department, 151, 145, and it's a bit of a decrease. I think it keeps pretty close in line with what the audit calls for, but I don't think it gets there. And certainly in the water and sewer fund, it doesn't. We don't touch the depreciation charge. But a bucket truck purchase is probably the biggest thing, and we've saved up half of that, and then the other half would come during the course of the year next year. In water and sewer, as you know, we've got several big projects looming if we take them on, including tail to bottom utility replacement, new raw water line from the reservoir we don't have in there because we don't know it's coming. However, the third item that was included in there was the aeration project. If you look there, there's $500,000, and that project has already been awarded, and we're waiting for them to come do that. So
You locked in at that price?
504. Yeah.
Not going up? I mean,
Unless there's a change order or something else now.
So you don't have anything in there for, Taylor Bottom, right?
Not yet. And for the raw water line, we don't have anything. It's well over $10 million. That's what we got.
So basically, just while we'll hit the pause button, what we're talking about tonight is a proposed budget that's a little higher than the current years, but we're not talking about any tax increases. We're not talking about any rate increases at this time or garbage increases, and the budget's balanced with a few question marks about finding funds for the ditch.
Ditches. There's other projects, but ditch is probably the most primary one. Tearing down the old school building, that's near and dear to my heart. There's nothing in there. And council's also voted to run that sidewalk down to Walmart. We don't have anything in there specific for that.
Not surprised. That's a big ambition.
And the garbage cans,
Right.
of course.
Yeah, but it's also a plan or a project that would affect the entire town of Blackstone for life and safety as well. I mean, doing the sidewalk that goes on Main Street.
It would. It would. I mean, luckily, knock on wood, we've not had the situation we all know, we all fear that could happen. But that doesn't mean you don't plan for it and hope to prevent it.
These days, more and more people in that area too.
Oh yeah, it's 11,000 vehicles a day at 10th and Main. That's what it is. It's busier at 10th and Main than at 360, 460 in Nottaway County. That's a fact.
It is fact.
7,500 up there, 11,000 a day here. Mainly because of folks commuting to Pickett, going to Walmart. But there's a lot wider out there at 460, 360 than it is at 10th and Main.
Well, while we're recording and you're talking about that, I sent out a code red and sent an email earlier about College Avenue tomorrow. There is gonna be a street closure between 6th and 7th for somebody cutting trees down on private property, but, so they called today, so just so y'all know, it's closed.
Well done. Thank you for that message. Any members of council have any concerns or questions? All you're looking for tonight is direction from the council on advertising a proposed
There's
budget.
a few items, the ditches and $10,000 that came from the finance committee. Additional $10,000 from, and
Is the committee recommending 5% raises or 3% raise? What is the committee recommending?
Could I say something?
Yes.
Could we go in closed session before we do the salaries?
not to talk about the 5%. If you're talking about merit increases
Right.
or something like
Yeah.
that, you can do that.
Can we do that?
But not the 5%. I think that's a general discussion. It's not a.
Was closed session on the agenda? This is a special meeting. I don't.
So we can't do that?
Well, we can with everyone signed the call, and we can agree to do that if you wish, or we could hold off and do that the night we seek public comment. People make.
It's not much on there. I mean,
Okay.
we can all go down and agree
Okay.
who we've had discipline issues with and
Okay.
strike it. In my opinion, so 1% off of a pay raise, and I know employees hate me talking about it, but it saves you $38,000, and that doesn't include the benefits. So,
I think 38 was what Jennifer told me.
That include the VRS contribution.
correct,
Right.
yeah. You got to figure 30% on top of it.
38,000 is that what you said?
38,000. That's what I was given by Ms. Hardy.
But that's not just in the general fund, so if you're looking to make cuts for expenditures in the general fund, that's not gonna.
Correct.
Okay.
That's total, 38.
Over every department.
And one thing, not trying to, like I said, just thought it came to me. When we did the ARPA bonuses, which were deserved, because our staff did work during COVID, did firefighters get any help from that?
No.
That was another
Yeah,
thing.
I didn't say anything after.
That was just another thing I was thinking about as far as the chief, or even maybe I know that we'll give bonuses to firefighters in December. It may be time to up that. I know that's about $18,000 a year. I just think that for some reason it hit me today. Our firefighters. I'm aware of some things going on in the county, not in Blackstone, that are not good. We really got it good in Blackstone right now, and I really think we need to reward the chief and his team.
Page 2 of the handout.
Yeah.
I called around today, got the most updated, comparison of what the increase.
Oh, okay. Wow. So me is doing 7%. Crew is 3. Not always doing 5.
We
Crew
never,
5.
at committee, just for clarity, we never discussed cutting or adding or anything. I mean, just so you know, it wasn't from the committee saying, let's go to 3.
Right.
My opinion is we just did 4 to help save something.
In your opinion, right?
It's absolutely only my opinion.
And-
But you've also got a ton of
I got a
fairly
question.
large amount of merit raises as
But,
well.
and
The large ones.
here's my question. Now, you holler merit raises, and then as we go down this thing and we look, not saying it's anybody's fault, I see where some important people on here didn't get anything but a merit raise. So my thing is
Cost of living rate.
cost of living. They got no merit raise. And
That
these,
means their department head did not recommend it with their department head request.
Well, I agree with Mr. Miller that we need to start doing better evaluations
right,
and get rid of this merit raise deal, and it only be, well, get rid of the across the board raises. We label it as merit, but it's not merit. We need. I want people to earn and work harder, and they are. We got a lot of people that work hard.
There have been a couple agreements the council has made on some of those merits. If you remember, there was a sprinkler operator.
Right.
And I think the scales that were proposed by Ed, I think have been considered and voted on. I think that there were some educational stipends. There's some merit increases that they need to be on.
Well, see, that's what the problem is so these scales have been presented to the committees, but once it makes it to council, you guys are not adopting it. So you're not helping the HR process of implementing all this before July 1. Because see, I have to get all the raises, I have to get everything keyed in before the first payroll of July, and we presented the pay scales months ago. Committees recommend it, and then it gets stopped at council. So I have no clear direction on that. I have no clear direction on what the department has asked as far as reclassifying employees. I tried to quantify that at the last employment and police meeting. It was not recommended. I have very open-ended legal titles that we have to get squared away. We have over 50 full-time employees, and I handle keeping you guys in compliance with those titles and comparable, trying my best for job descriptions. The new procurement policy made it to the committee, and then it did not get adopted by council. I need that cleared up, because Jackie and myself, we have forms, we have processes we need to let out, because if we're rolling it out July 1, why would we wait until June 27th to adopt something to give staff 2 days to get forms and policies together? That's not given a very good professional courtesy to allow staff to implement these processes properly. We have quite a few employees that are moving from departments, and in order to keep us legally compliant with those moves from one fund to the other, I needed my reclassifications recommended or approved, or if you didn't like it, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, but this is what your department heads have asked, and then I get here, and then it goes nowhere. Then you also have the reclassification of the title you want to do, the DBI situation. Another thing Philip didn't bring up that's not in the budget are your annual donations. You're here for the past 2 years, you're making $10,000 in donations.
Juneteenth and fireworks, yeah.
They are not in there. So you need to realize when you get these donations, you have $5,000 in your discretionary now, which is, you know, but that's kind of things you guys should keep in the back of your head, and then realize that this is, I mean, I get adopting it with the budget, but if we're gonna implement a pay increase July 1, you know, staff
Cutting it
should be
close,
able
yeah.
to
Cutting it
start
close.
Yeah.
preparing, or it's gonna be late nights and working a weekend trying to get it updated and.
But
be
typically my recollection of this council going back for 30 years is that the town budget is normally adopted the last week of June.
Yeah, and that's fine, but these policies, normally, since we brought them to y'all in like February,
Yeah,
March, normally you guys would approve them for us to be effective July 1.
But now you're in limbo.
And so here
July
we're in
1st.
limbo where we can't do our forms and
Gotcha.
be ready to get staff prepared for the new procurement policy, because we just don't have a vote to start it.
So, I got a question. Now, I've looked at all these, and I see here's Andre down here. I see no merit raise for Andre.
I think now we're getting into individual personnel that might be.
That should be closed session.
Yeah, I think it should be closed.
That's why I asked for closed
Yeah,
session.
we will go to closed session before we start shouting at employees.
Jennifer mentioned a point that I didn't even think about, and I've been the advocate of we don't spend the money and make appropriations. We obviously need to find 10 grand more if we know that we're going to be doing 2 donations, correct?
Yeah.
We got $5,000 in your.
So we need to find 10 grand more. So that's another one we got. So that's 20 now with DBI, with economic developer.
Rent those rooms,
What's the
rent
20
those rooms at the end.
What are you
Hurry up.
talking about? What are you saying?
And the dispatching positions, we really need that cleared up as far as the budget, to have that budget.
Yeah, what I'm sensing from the council, I think those 2 dispatching positions that aren't really dispatchers are going to remain in the budget, if I'm reading tea leaves.
That was only
Why,
one time.
so is there,
The 5%
See, y'all
is
jumped
not-
up
what was
and
with the
did that.
2-year limit? Why?
What happened 2 years ago is that basically, the way I recall the discussion, is that these 2 very nice, very dependable employees were nearing, or I'd been told, approaching retirement, and that because Nottaway Sheriff's Office for the last now about 3 years has been doing all of Blackstone dispatching, we don't have dispatchers over there. That we're paying the county, what, 10 grand a year or whatever to do our dispatching for us.
So we set a 2-year limit so they could reach retirement.
The council when the council adopted the budget in 2019 or 2020, it was declared that on June 30th, 22, these positions would be no more. I remember it vividly. And
We budget $24,000 for dispatching, but not that.
24,000, but you're still cheaper than having. At one time, you used to have 3 full-time dispatchers working
And to
24/7.
clarify, that was not Ben Green. Ben Green was not up here 2 years ago.
No.
You ain't say nothing. Maybe you looking at me for.
I heard you say Ben Green.
But
So if,
You need to clean.
Mr. Allman has the floor. Mr. Allman has the floor.
so did they, I'm gathering that they did not reach retirement.
That is correct. Apparently, there's a few more years ago.
So we were given false information 2 years ago.
Well, given I don't think it was totally correct, or maybe I misinterpreted.
I don't know.
I may have
It's
misinterpreted.
False information, the VRS.
Yeah.
Information is the VRS information, the age is the age. I don't think it was tied to necessarily they can retire. I think it was tied to we kick the can down the road. That's what that particular council at that time.
But Chief has made a compelling argument to the manager, according to the manager, and I've spoken to the chief, that they do have value to the department. And one complaint I used to hear, I haven't heard it in a long time, is that people want to go in that office and see a human being. Now, personally, if I'm stabbed in the middle of Brunswick Avenue, I got a cell phone, I'll just call 911. But for some reason, people feel like, Billy, what if I'm downtown and I get stabbed, I guess you gonna run down here? Hey, I need help. I'm calling the phone.
So between, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
between 8 and 4, these 2 positions, weren't there'd be nobody in the police department for the group? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
I believe there's a secretary all the time.
Yes.
Tiffany's receptionist, or not receptionist, but the chief secretary.
Chief has a dedicated administrative assistant.
Okay. I'm just trying to, I'm not advocating for.
No,
I'm
no.
just trying to get the information.
Trying to get a better understanding.
Yeah.
Totally, I totally get it.
Yeah, and then you said the chief said that I mean, he need them over there, so I think that should just solve the problem. I mean, do we need them or not? And I would say yes, if he said that he feel that we need them.
I generally tend to trust department heads unless I
Yeah,
see
so
something
if he
That's
myself.
why the
He
police
feel
and
that they-
employment committee made the decision because the chief said he needed him.
Yeah, so
And we
that's-
can't tell the chief how to run his
that's
department.
enough right there. I mean, that's.
If we were really strapped for money and talking about major tax increases and we were having a major economic meltdown, which, knock on wood, I hope it doesn't happen in the coming 12 months, we might be having a different discussion
Yeah.
on a lot of positions.